Hi guys, this is LT Survival. Tonight's video is going to be about my 2 cents again on Alone Season 2. That'll be episode 3 and 4, and we'll be right back after this. Hi, well, episode 3 and 4, as I said in the last one, we left out where Mary Kate had injured her hand. Well, obviously she was in shock, and had trouble basically taking care of herself. Strange thing, she was so much in shock, she continued filming and moved the camera to the beach where she called for help. Doing so with the sat phone basically made her tap out. It's unfortunate because she would have been interesting to follow. She kept on filming while you see her getting out there, panicked a bit, and having her hand on the side bleeding away. Well, it wasn't that much bleeding, but it was bleeding, and she kept on filming and tapping out the GPS sat phone and calling for help, and the help finally arrived, and she had only used a couple of bandage to put, but I think she was pretty much in shock. She wasn't responding very well to the injury. Unfortunately, that got the worst of her. So she tapped out, and she was sent to the hospital. I guess she didn't incur any heavy injury. And that was on day 7, third episode, beginning of the third episode. So what we thought might happen did happen. Then we went to day 8, where we met Larry again. He's in good spirit. Talk a lot to the camera. I think he's using it as a Wilson, if we refer to the Alone TV or Lost TV series. He had to move his shutter uphill, so he makes some step and improve the footing going up that hill, which was pretty bad, pretty slippery. But at one point he passed in front of a tree, and all of a sudden he hits something, and he almost falls back to the bottom of the hill, and he injured his shoulder. Not bad, was just bruised, but he could have broke a collarbone. And was kind of scary because it was swing back to it, and it was like not good. Further in the episode, and on the 4th episode, mind you, it's both episodes together. I'm not gonna go back and do each episode. So he finally got his gill net out, and he thought he could recover a fish before the tide was receding fully, and he missed and he lost it. So he was pretty starved. All of them seems to have prospered or worked on their food reserve for the 7 days. It seems to be a trend. Everybody has established good camp, but weren't fishing or hunting or doing nothing else than that. They were setting up pretty much for the 7 days. So the next day, the 8th day, at the end of the day, he got 2 more fish, and 2 more from another set of line he had. He got the fish not from the gill net, but from the lines. He had static line that were set with 2 hooks on it, and he got 2 fish on each one. So he had 4 fish the first day. So he was pretty happy boy, and he made fillet out of the fish, which was wasting a lot of meat, and he skewered them and cooked them and ate them that night, and he made a stew for the next morning. So basically that stew was to be cooked on the fire, and the next day, which is pretty brilliant as we can think about it, because that makes your second meal with the rest of the fish, and you eat everything, bones and all, or almost, to recover as much protein as you can. So that was sound. So we got to the 4th episode, where he's pretty much feeded up and got a good meal into him instead of eating very, very little and using tea only. So he has no problem with water. He has no problem with fire and predator. So he's pretty good. We saw Randy. Randy that lost his ferro rod in the fire at the end of the other episode. So we see that he's resorted to bow drill. Well, bow drill took him an eternity. I think it's 5 hours before he get an ember and get fire going. So if he can maintain his bow drill and maintain his fire, now this problem is to continue living, and we see by the end of the third episode that's basically light as fire, and all of them tend to give us lesson, give to the camera. They have the idea. A lot of them are YouTubers. Not a lot of them. Some of them are YouTubers, but most of them consider the camera to be us. So they teach to us, they talk to us, they do things. In Randy gave us pretty good bow drill lesson where you have not to stop. He had to search for another rock. So that's the end of the third episode. On the fourth episode, we saw him start his fire, and we leave him there. So we'll see how he's gonna get along with that fire on the other episode. Nicole, she's the one that use nature's medicines. She's a guide in Africa. She has multiple sclerosis, and she kind of heal herself with plants and everything. She's in really good spirit. I mean, she see that as not a burden, not a survival situation, but just plain living. I guess she's the one that used the most plants. She eats salad corn. She get her mushrooms, things like that. So she knows pretty much the plants. So she's the one that would be able to use nature to make medicine, and that's pretty good because she can use the plant to feed herself. Well, it's not substantial. She's trying gill net by the end. She put her gill net in the river, well, in one of the affluent of the ocean that goes by, and when she goes back to recover, bears are present, and we leave her with that, and she kind of get away because the bears saw her and went up on his hind leg, and she got a little scared. I would anyway. At the speed they're running, they're kind of difficult to leave behind and lose. So you don't want to be chased by your bear. So we saw her scooting away with the camera at the end of episode 4, and she's pretty well settled. She got her own her shelter insulated with debris or fern, and she's getting along pretty good. Jose, that's the one we see the least of all the episodes. Jose is the Canadian one. He's a Spanish from origin. I think I've already said that. He made cordage out of spruce. I have a blank. Out of not the branch, but the roots, spruce roots. And he shows us how he does it, and he uses fire pipe and everything to activate his fire. He seems to be enjoying himself pretty much. Food seems not to be a problem either. And he made cordage. Start doing a project. He's using multi-tool, which is one of the two that use multi-tool in this adventure. And he used the fire pipe as a blower, so that's one of the project, and he's getting along, and he seems not to suffer as much as the other of loneliness or hunger, which is a survival enemy. And because the other guy, you see the other guy progress in hunger, and it's going to be more evident one of the other contestant. But even Larry suffered from it. He wasn't dehydrated, that's one good thing. But he suffered from hunger, and hunger can be your enemy because you're only thinking about that. I'll come back later on that. Tracy is the heavyset woman, if I may say so. and she's a former law enforcement, military, and all kinds of things. And she finally placed her gill net. She got a fish and a crab, so she had a good meal on that. Not much of a protein intake, but at least she got some. We see her exposed that she carry a guilt that she blames herself for, and she has many encounters with bears at night, so she had to whoosh them away and scare them a bit. But on the episode 8, on day 8 or night of the day 8, she had a major encounter where the cubs were literally in her camp. So mother don't want to have cubs in the camp, somebody else which talks or moves. So pretty much that was a close encounter. She scared the cub away with a flare and shouting and using the air horn and everything. And on episode 4 we see her tap out. We see her tap out not because she met the bear, but because she let out her inner demon. So the demon she was fighting is her own anger, and she lashed out at the bear, which basically was the right thing to do. But she didn't like what she had to become to survive there, so she couldn't stand it anymore, because it's one of the things she was trying to get away from. And that rage monster came back out, and she wasn't liking it at all, and she got pretty emotional and decided that well, she couldn't stay being that monster if it means losing herself. So basically that tapped out because she couldn't live with herself being the monster. So another contestant that would have been interesting to see further along. I guess she had all the potential to be very interesting. On day 8 we really see Mike. He didn't film very much. Mike seems to be the better installed. He's got camp, he's got a bed, kind of a raised bed but very low. He's making a raised table, he's got a drawing rack which he builds in the episode. We see him make literally a cooking fire on leg, a raised cooking fire with basically about 3 feet, which he can stand up and work as if he had a working area. So he built it up with rocks and a piece of wood and driftwood and everything. So he is building, he is installing himself for a very long time. If loneliness can keep away, this contestant is well equipped to last for at least a year. I don't know if he's done that. We know that Larry Roberts right now is back home, but are all of the contestants back home? We don't know. I would presume that everybody finally got out by this time. That was last November, so that makes at least 6 months. And the show would be long if the guy were lasting for 12 months. But he's got a fireplace, he's got a drying rack, he's got running water from a jug with a paddle. So everything that they can recover on the beach, they can use in their camp. They can use the cordage, they can make some, they can do everything they want to install themselves. And he's really well installed. He's a neat freak, so he has a pile of smalls, kindling smalls, and larger piece of wood, which he's going to be drying over a first fire and everything. He's got fire, he's got a fire pit, he's got his cooking pit. He has no trouble lighting his fire, so I think he might be very much in the long run for it. We didn't see much Justin, but he's got humor, Gil. His Gill net works, so he has some food. seems that he's going to be okay also. So we'll see how much struggle he's got. Depending, we're always limited by what the contestant film during their episode. So and then the studio mounts it. So the last contestant we see in those 2 episodes is David. I think David is the one suffering from dehydration, food or lack of food, which has the least success in fishing. So his gill net doesn't work because it seems to be it's a commercial gill net he bought, and it's a very tiny hole. So he thinks that fish are simply not getting caught into the gill net. By the end of day 7, he started to make a gill net of himself. So he recovered cordage, split it, and used the smalls and make it a net needle, which is an instrument you use to tie knots to make a gill net. And is really good. He's got half of it done for about 8 feet to about 2 feet high. He's need at least 4 feet high, and is there, but he's caught in hunger, and he's really hungry and dehydrated. That's the one that's probably in the least favorable position for that, because then it seems not to have make boiling water. He had a rain catcher which was providing plenty of water, but it ran out since he's in a position where he had no rain for a couple of days, so he's running low on water, and you can only do so many days without water. So he decided to boil some water. So he started using sap of a pine and cedar bark to start his fire, which one completes the other by fueling the first one. So one is harder to light than the other, but one sustains the fire longer. So and he's making a fire, and you see him put a big old pot on the water, and disaster. Murphy's always present in survival, I would say. So he's tending his fire, and all of a sudden he moves something, and the pot tips over and extinguishes the fire, and you see is not an happy camper. He got the camera off so he can swear a lot and get his voice's discouragement, and he said so. And one of the things he's finding out, and that's after that pot he turned over, and he started over again his fire and get his water boiling. I guess he's going to have some water soon enough. But one of the thing he said, well, the concept of alone is you're alone, and you have nobody to fall back on if your skill are lacking. He's lacking skill of fishing, and he's having trouble with the gill net. He's having trouble finding a protein food source, and you have nobody to speak to. So that is the difficulty of the show alone. Just by being alone, having nobody else to rely on when things go wrong. So it is pretty good. I'm finding it really enjoyable seeing their struggle by mean of giving us a view inside of long-term survival. They're out at 8 days. They'll probably crossing on the next episode, the 9th day out, and it's either proving their lack of skill or proving they can make it. It's either way, and they don't necessarily have lacks of skills. They're really having difficulty applying them. It's Larry that said everything in this environment is difficult. Making a spear, he made a spear to catch fish if he has an opportunity. One tip was one-handed defensive spear, and the other tip was a fishing multi-head spearing for fish. So I guess as the show go on, we'll see the struggle, what this environment can do to you, that you weren't prepared, whatever you did, couldn't prepare to face, because this is a very difficult environment. I guess next year it's going to be in another location, which is going to be harder even. If you go tropical, it's another story, another ballpark, which is not my suit. I'm more in the boreal forest type of guy. So I have pine, I have maple tree, I have birch bark, all kinds of stuff that can use. So plenty of resources in boreal forest. So that concludes. It's been long enough anyway. And that concludes the review of the episode 3 and 4 of the show Alone Season 2. Hope you enjoyed these videos, because we'll keep doing them, and I'll keep watching the show and try to give you my 2 cents on it. I'm not much of a criticism on what they do. I simply try to look at what is favorable to them, what could be a problem, like the axe strike was on Mary Kate. I'm just trying to figure out what level of survival enemy they are at, and trying to give you a little hint when you watch it again, to see those enemies come into play in those episodes. So I encourage you to watch the episode. You can go to history.com or have the app on Apple to watch the episode. If you're a local distributor, distribute it, or watch it straight from TV. But anyway, you can follow the show. It's really worth it. It's a lesson in survival. It shows what to do, what not to do, what could go wrong, what will go wrong, and it'll get you started thinking about alternative to what you're training at. So hope you like this. Please give the thumbs up, subscribe, and share this video. We'll see you in the next video.